Okay, welcome everybody. I thought the university did a tremendous job of celebrating HBCUs this weekend. It was exactly, in fact, it was better than what I had expected. I love seeing Coach Hubbard and Coach Hayes and Coach Broadway out on the field before the game. They were so excited, and all of them have done amazing things, but Coach Hayes is our Eddie Robinson of this state. So it was so much fun to see him. And then you go back to Rod. I said I tried to hire him when he was working for Steve Spurrier at Duke when I first got here. And then he had 7 of his teammates of color from the first team that he played on here as well. We've heard from them, and George Webster being honored. It was just really cool to see. I love the crowd. Everybody came out to support the cause of the game, and our student body's the best. They packed it in, and they were loud and did a tremendous job throughout the game. And I've got to give a shout out to our band. We talked so much about the Marching 100, and they're really good, but we recorded halftime and sent a link to our players and our staff so they could all watch it. And I watched it last night, and our band brought it, man. They were good. They hung in there. So I'm really, really proud of them and the 2 bands, but all of the recognition it brought the HBCUs was what that was all about. I thought it really worked well. Our players of the game were Drake May on offense, Power Eccles on defense, and Obi Agbuna on special teams. Those 3 guys played so well. There were a couple of guys that were unnoticed that really helped us win the game. And on offense, that was DJ Jones. He did so many things in protection to help us and save us in a couple of instances where we could have had a sack. So we're really, really proud of him and the experience he brought with the young backs around him. And also DeAndre Boykins, he played 68 plays. He made so many plays on defense. And when Tony got hurt, Storm was going to play half the time at star at our nickel position, and he obviously couldn't. So DeAndre had to stay in there the whole game, and Storm played a lot more than we planned on him playing. And also then Dante Belfar played a lot more, and Marcus Allen. Marcus played about 15 plays, I think, so he played quite a bit more than we thought as well, and you've just got to do that. Just looking at the keys to the game, we have keys to victory every week, and that's something that we mark down for the players. And if we're in yellow and they're not, then we've won the game. And when you look at what happened, we rushed for 314 yards. They rushed for 56. They had 27 rushes for 56 yards, which is 2.1 yard per average. We had 40 carries for 314 yards, 7.8 yard average. Usually if you do that, you won the game, because the number of carries means you're making yards when you carry it. If you've got fewer numbers, it means they stopped your running game. So we're very, very proud of that with a new offensive line and new running backs and new quarterback. We're very, very proud of the rushing yards that we had. We forced 2 turnovers and we gave up none, and we got 14 points off the 2 turnovers we forced. And that's how you win football games. We really only had 3 penalties with our blue team. We had a couple at the end, so the penalties were limited. We didn't have a sack, we didn't have a tackle for loss. We did have a couple of hurries that we need to work on. We forced 3 sacks, and they were getting the ball out of their hands so fast that we felt like that we needed to do a better job in coverage and make them hold it a little bit longer, because he was getting it out of there. And we still got 3 sacks on him, but if we had done a better job in our coverage with our linebackers, some in our drops and with our secondary, and made him hold it just a bit longer, our defensive line was there. And they did a good job of getting there. 3rd downs, we were 7 for 12. They were 5 for 13. Explosive plays, we had 11 on offense. They had 10. They had 9 passes and 1 run. That's too many passes. So we've got to do a better job of limiting their explosive plays on offense. And the run is really interesting. Our defensive tackle, and I won't mention his name, he totally blew up their offensive guard on their 21-yard run, but he got his head on the wrong side. So he stuck his head outside, and then it didn't let our linebacker get to his gap. So it's just fundamentally being sound in a few areas. He tried hard, he knocked the guy back, but he got in the wrong area. So we've got to just work on the little things to do what we need to do. They scored points right before the half, which was disappointing. They overcame a 4th and 4, a 3rd and 22, and a 4th and 10, and you cannot let that happen. But then we came back and scored right before the half and to start the third quarter, which is huge for the outcome of the ball game. They were 2 for 2 on 4th downs. We were 2 for 3. We didn't make the 4th and 2 with the ball that was thrown to DJ in the flat, and didn't give us a chance. We scored the 14 points after turnovers, which we said is big. And in the red zone, we've really talked about lower red zone and being more physical. We were 4 for 4 in the red zone. The last one really doesn't count because we were running the clock out, and they were 2 for 3. They had 1 field goal. We need to keep them from having 2 other touchdowns in the red zone, but felt like overall we did a really good job in the ball game. A lot of things to work on, a lot of things that need to be fixed. We came out banged up, which you don't like, but that's part of football. You gotta get whoever's ready to play and put them out there and let them go. That's just part of it. A couple of things: we completed passes to 10 different receivers. Really like the fact that we got our tight ends more involved than they have in the past. They caught 8 balls and 2 of them were for touchdowns, and they haven't been that big a threat in the past. We talked about the 2 turnovers our defense forced. We talked about the 3 sacks that our defense forced, and they did a tremendous job of stopping the run. Really, really pleased in the first game that our offense, with as many new players, didn't turn it over, and that's the way you win games. We were able to play about 70 players, so we played a lot of guys, which should help us. But overall, I thought it was a great opening ball game. Give them credit. They played hard. They played well. It ends up that only 3 players out of their 2 deep didn't play. So there's a lot of talk about all the players that weren't there. Everybody that played was there. And they did a good job. I thought their plan was good on offense. They didn't think they could block us. It didn't look like, so they got the ball out of their hands quick and tried to throw to their good wide receivers. And then they got some balls downfield, which we've got some work to do, as we said, in that area. But it was really, really good to get those young defensive backs some playing time when Tony came out, because we're going to need them throughout the year. App State got a great program, 3 national titles, 22 conference titles. They're really strong at home. They've got the 6th best record at home since 2014. They're 42-7. They regularly win 9, 10+ games. That's just who they are. It's been the largest crowd in their school history. It's been sold out for months. They're one of the best programs in the country. They play with confidence. They play tough. They run the ball. They stop the run. It's been amazing since Sparky and I feel a little part of that. And also, we've got Lonnie Galloway, who was there for 3 national championships, and Alex White, our recruiting coordinator, was their recruiting coordinator, and Jim Collins is on our staff, and he coached there. So we got a lot of ties with App State. Jerry Moore is one of the best to ever do it, and he's a nicer man, but he's 3 national championships. Makes me really proud for as I said, Sparky and I had a little piece of that as we got started there. The last 3 years, there's only 7 programs with top 50 scoring on offense and defense, and App State's in that group. So everything you can say about them, and Coach Clark is a disciple of Coach Moore. They just keep doing what they do, and they are very well coached. They do an amazing job of evaluation and recruiting, because they play hard, they play well. It's another opening game for us, which is unusual. They've got a new offensive coordinator. They've got a lot of guys back, but they've got some new guys and a few transfers that we haven't seen much of. And then Chase Bryce, we will have played him at 3 different programs to show you what the transfer portal's done. He was on the Clemson team and didn't play when we played our first year. Then we played him at Duke our second year, and now here we are at App State, and he's done a tremendous job. He won state championship in high school at Georgia, and he's a 6th-year quarterback. It's interesting to see how many 5- and 6-year guys are on the roster. COVID has really helped a lot of teams get older players, and we're still a young team because our best players, by and large, are really young. So that's we got to grow up, and they're experienced with confidence, and we're not. And the other thing is we haven't went on the road, so all odds are against us this weekend. We're banged up. We're taking a first-year quarterback to Boone. They've got a 6th-year guy. We're going to a hostile environment, and we haven't played well on the road in those. So we got our hands full. We're gonna have to play great to have a chance to win. Questions?
Yes. You mentioned you threw a lot more to the tight ends than you have in the past. Is that something you guys did consciously this year, this game, knowing that you had to kind of give a little more leeway, a little more room for the wide receivers, given the youth in that group?
We're young at running back. We're young at wide receiver. The tight ends are really the older group. So we felt like that they're talented. They've been around for a while. John Lilly does a great job with tight ends, maybe as good as anybody in the country, and he brings his pro background into that group. So it's really helped our offense. I liked what I saw Saturday night on offense. I thought we spread the ball around. We had good balance with run and pass. We were about 300 yards each. I think we had 608 yards total offense. And getting those tight ends involved, because they're so involved in the running game, and play action really helps them in the passing game, will help our offense.
After reviewing the film and talking with the staff, is there something that came out of this that you're very pleasantly surprised that you saw in the game that maybe you didn't see as much of during camp? And the flip side, is there a concern that maybe you thought you guys were a little bit better at, but weren't so much Saturday night?
I was pleasantly surprised that Drake played as well as he did in the first game, because that's hard to do. And he's got some things he can fix. He would be the first to tell you that. But he made good decisions. He threw it to a lot of different people, so he can see the field. His ability to run is something that people have not seen that we saw in practice. But the long run on the quarterback draw showed everybody he can run. And we've got to get him to get down and get out of bounds. I mean, that's he got to stay healthy. So we felt like all of that was good. I thought both young backs were really anxious early in the game, but they played well, so they got better as the game went on, and that was something we wanted to see. We didn't play Jonathan Adorno as much as we wanted to, so we'll need to play him more in rotation because he played well when he got in there. But I thought the offensive line did a good job. They had a lot of defensive changes, and we didn't know what they were going to do, and I thought they made good adjustments during the game. I thought our defensive line across the board and linebackers played well against the run. We've got to have more discipline on our drops. And if we get the discipline on our drops and we get the guys holding the ball a little longer, we were there. We'll get our sacks. So I thought the guys put pressure. We just couldn't get there. We'd never seen the Vanderbilt transfer play at quarterback. Even when they said last week that he was the starter, we couldn't believe it because the other guy was good and they won 9 games with him last year. So until we saw him walk out there on the field, we weren't sure, and he played great. He made throws with people in his face. And we had some misalignments on defense that we've got to work on. And I said, that's a new staff with guys that hadn't worked together. So that I feel like they'll get better and better each week. Special teams, I thought were good. We did a good job for our first game for sure. Substitution wasn't a problem. We had a 24-yard return. We made all of our field goals. They kicked all the kickoffs out but one, and we averaged 49 yards a punt and covered it. So I thought that Larry Porter's transition and all the staff working so hard on special teams was good.
How do you approach the depth chart after a game like this, one game, or who knows how much you can take away from it? You change things around, or you just kind of competition and practice again?
Same thing exactly, Ross. We've told them it's every day. Some move up, some get more playing time because of the way they played, some will get less, and then we'll go back to work tomorrow. And we had about an hour of practice yesterday because they're really sore. You need to get all that soreness out and make them run, and you can see who is hurt in your mind and who's not. And then you come back and they have the day off today, and they'll do film study on their own, and then we'll go back tomorrow, and you really see tomorrow who's well enough to practice, because that's a rough game, and those guys bang on each other for 3 hours, and some can handle being hit more than others. But we are doing the same thing every day. The guy that practices the best is going to play. And I thought the coaches, I asked the coaches to give me an estimation of how many plays each player would play during the game. And I'll go back over it in today's staff meeting with them, but they were pretty close. They did a good job of getting the guys in the game that they needed to.
How would you like that running back rotation to eventually get to, if not App State, a couple weeks from now, 2 or 3 years?
I think we've just got to see they're all good. You can see Elijah Green's good when he goes in the game at the end. And Caleb Hood didn't play a whole lot, but he's practiced less. So hopefully he's getting back to 100% and doing what he needs to do. By and large, and Phil can talk to you about it, I thought the 2 young backs did a good job with pass protection and things that are tough for them at an early age. And I said DJ really helped us because he could clean up and help when there was a guy that was free, and the other guys aren't quite ready to do that yet. So I don't know. It's I thought the young backs early kind of ran sideways, and after the game got going, they were more north and south, and obviously Omarion's a load. Larry said he was running into people early, trying to run over them, it looked like, and then he got relaxed and had fun and made some really good runs in the second half. And the run that George made in the third, early fourth, whatever that was, early fourth quarter, I guess, was really special, and that shows how he is in open field. So it's a good question. I didn't think we got Kobe Paysauer in the game enough, so we'll get him more, obviously, as the year goes on, because he deserved more than he got. But when you got that many good backs, you got to figure out what each one of them does special, when they should be in the game, and not giving the game plan away with when he's in, they're going to do this, when he's in, they're doing this. So that's what we're trying to continue to figure out. We felt like it was really important to play those young backs in the opener to see what they could do and get them confidence before we headed to Boone the second week.
Mack, can you put in perspective how difficult, or if running back is an easier position to make a transition, but Omarion not being an early enrollee and having the spring and being able to come in and do what he did?
Yeah, see, he did an amazing job because he's had 20-something days of practice, and that's it. And George was here all spring, so it made it much easier for him. So we weren't sure how much we could do with Omarion early, and he's really responded well. He works really, really hard. He comes over to meet all the time, and he's studying because this is really important to him. He wants to play, and he wants to play good. Andre Green played about 26 plays, I think, and we want him to play more. And we didn't get him the ball, so he's another one that needs to continue to come. And sometimes, weirdly enough, in a limited package at running back, it's easier to play than wide receiver because you see so many different coverages and you've got so many different things to do. So that was a great learning experience for Andre as well.
Mack, will this be the first time we've been back to doing 4 games since you coached there?
Yes.
What do you remember about where that program was when you were there versus where it is now?
I had just left LSU and I'd gone to Appalachian. I think I was maybe 32, can't remember. I was in my early 30s. We didn't have demonstrators cars, so we had to use state cars, so we had to check them out. We were all teaching class, and instead of each coach teaching it, we got so we all taught one class, and I think it was leadership in sports or something like that. At that time, we were struggling with a SID, we were struggling with an equipment manager, we were struggling with a full-time trainer, so we got young people to do all those things for us, and it was fun. We had to learn. You could only have 33 out-of-state players on your team because of budget. So there were a lot of different things. I remember that they had all griped about training tables, so we opened up with Wake Forest, and I told the kids, we're gonna do it right, man. You're gonna have steak and what you're supposed to, and the chef got sick and didn't come in. We had hot dogs and hamburgers for pregame meal before we drove down to Winston-Salem to play. I think we stayed in our dorms and got in the bus and just drove down to play the next night. And I remember having a nightmare that we brought the wrong uniforms, and Wake Forest had to wear the other color because it was obviously my first time to be a head coach. So it was a special time. Excuse me. I love the place. We've had a house up there for 30 years. It's funny this weekend that all of my friends are pulling against us. They all want us to lose, all my mountain friends, and I don't like them this week either, so that's just part of it. But the program has grown so much, and it's in such a better place than it was when I went there, and I'm so proud of them. And they're one of the best programs in the country, and they're good at what they do. They're proud. Their crowds make a difference. Football is really important there, and I'm just proud of who they've become. They're really good. In fact, they're older, they're more experienced. They won more than we have. Their program's ahead of where we are, and that's what we've got to get so we can get back to the 10 wins. And not many people are doing that across the country. So I'm really, really proud for them.
Just Mac, on that note, in terms of just your career and that period of it, it seems like there was just a lot going on. I mean, I think it was what, Iowa State, LSU, App for 1 year, a cup of coffee, then we're at Oklahoma right after that. Like what, just in terms of your career, what do you remember about it? It seems like it was a lot of change, and I think you might have almost had the LSU job, right, when you were at App. They approached you about that, didn't they?
Yes, I actually talked to them and had a visit. The interesting thing is I love Appalachian State. I love the mountains of North Carolina and all it stands for, the golf and the fishing and the people, and it's just, it was my home for 6 months when I was doing TV. So it's a place that Sally and I absolutely love, and when we get through, it's a place we'll go stay. But I do remember when we were at App State, I was loving it. It overloads you when you're in your early 30s, and there's so many things going on that are new for you in a program, and you're trying to figure all that out. And I remember I was making $38,500 as the head coach, and Oklahoma offered me $125,000. So I said, I'm not real smart, I can't count really well, but I think I need to go. And I didn't really want to go. I wanted to stay, but I also knew that Oklahoma was one of the best programs in the country, and that would be a great experience for me to go call plays and work with Barry Switzer and try to win a national championship. So I hated the day I left. I actually stayed there through 2 recruiting classes and 1 season only. So and it was so funny, we went down to Wake Forest and we beat them in the opener. And I think they ran up and down the field, and we intercepted 2 passes and ran them back for touchdowns to win the game. So it's not like we dominated. And then we got back to Boone that night late, and there's a huge celebration, and the next week is Mack Brown Day. And James Madison came in with Gary Clark and Charles Haley, 2 of the best players to ever play, and we didn't have any idea who either one of them were, and they beat us like 28-24. So I got into this head coaching thing really quickly.
Coach, something your players talked about a lot throughout preseason camp was being consistent, having good communication. Do you feel like those are areas you guys succeeded in this last game?
We weren't as consistent on defense as we wanted to be. We felt like that we were further ahead on offense during that game. and again, give their offensive coaches and give that quarterback some credit. And their best players were their skilled people. Their skilled people are good. So that'll help us on defense this week. Our offense will have to get back to work, and they'll be walking around, everybody be bragging on them this week, and the defense, everybody be yelling at them. So they'll come back with, really confident and ready to play. What we've got to do is, last year when one side of the ball would play well, next week they wouldn't. So this year we've got to do what we say we're doing, and that's play to a standard of excellence every day and quit worrying about the last game. I told them we have a family dinner every Sunday night, and we used to only have victory dinner and not eat together if we lost. And I thought that was bad, because you can play really hard and play really well, maybe the other team's better than you are. And maybe sometimes after a loss you need to pick it up more as a family anyway. So family dinner last night, we said as soon as you walk out of that dinner, this one's gone, good or bad, and you got to look forward to the next one. So everything will be Appalachian State starting today.
Did you get a chance to talk to British Brooks yet about his thoughts on how the running backs played?
I have not, but British is doing great. He's around all the time. Like I said, I haven't seen my cart since he got hurt. He's got my cart. He's got him a little scooter. He gets around, but he actually, and this is the kind of young man he is, when we had our bell tower walk, and it's moved because of the facilities that we're building. We're doing it out here to the left just for this year. He actually was on the bus and walked down the steps with his crutches, because he said, "Coach, I'm gonna do this." And I said, "I wouldn't. You got people, you may fall." And he said, "Nope, I'm making my walk." So he's really a special young man.
Mack, if you look at in terms of scheduling, I just wanted to ask you about your approach or your preferences. You know, I know 2020 was just completely weird, and how last year was with Virginia Tech right out of the box. But so what you had an FCS, and now you got 2 Group of 5s on the road. Like, how does that line up with what, in terms of non-conference scheduling, that you would like or not like, just your preferences on how that looks?
Yeah, that's with Bubba and Rick Steinbacher, obviously, and these games were scheduled before I got here. I did request that FAMU be moved to 0 week, and I thought it was good for lots of reasons. But what I did here before, and what we did at Texas, is I like a national game, 2 games at home that you should win, and then your conference. So that would be my preference if I was asked.
When you looked at the defensive tape, obviously we talked about more with Coach Chiswick, but what stood out to you as maybe things that you really want to focus in on improving with that? Secondary got a lot of passing yards, things like that.
Yeah. The thing that I will say, and then I'll let Gene get into details, is if you stop the run, you usually win the game. And they had 1 run of 21 yards, and that was it. So, and they had a couple that squirted for maybe 8 yards with a zone read, and other than that, they had no running at all. So the front 7 did a tremendous job in an opening game of stopping the run, and those backs are good. One's 230, and the other one's a transfer from Pitt, and they're talented players. The second thing is you want to force turnovers, and that's hard to do, especially when you're not getting them in long yardage situations. So we intercepted a pass right before the half, but we knocked the ball loose, and Storm dropped another interception, so we could have very well had 3, which we needed to. But stopping the run and forcing turnovers and getting 3 sacks, all of those things were good. What we've got to do is play the ball better and be in better position at linebacker and secondary, because they were able to make some 3rd and longs and 4th downs that we just can't have. So that's, and I do feel like we'll be better, because 2 young corners got really their first playing time at corner. They got quite a bit of time, so that should help us, and especially when Tony gets back, it'll start developing some depth.
Going back to the decision you made when you left that and went to go work for Coach Switzer, a lot of coaches wouldn't do that. They get a head job, they want to keep a head job. What was the formative value that you got out of making what would be considered sort of a different kind of move that kind of built you into got you steered the direction that you went as a coach, not just with your vision, but running a program?
Andrew, I love my grandfather, and my grandfather was the winningest coach in Middle Tennessee history when I was young. And he always said, you're gonna be a Hall of Fame coach. So as a young coach, I always made decisions that I felt like I needed to make to be the best coach that I could do and push me the best I could. When I was calling plays at LSU, I went to App State because I thought, I love the mountains. I love East Tennessee and Western North Carolina. That's just, I was raised on a lake. And that's, so I was going up there to retire and be there the rest of my life in my 30s. And I wanted to be a head coach. And I remember Steve Sloan and Bill Battle, two guys that I really looked up to, were head coaches in the late 20s, early 30s. So I thought I was already late trying to get there. And then when I got there, I found out, number one, how hard being a head coach was. And when you're playing Citadel at 8 at night, you get on that bus and you're pulling back into Boone at 7 in the morning with the sun coming up, you know that's a hard job. It's a long way to travel. But even then, I got to ride on the bus with Paul Dietzel. He did our radio broadcast. Here's a Hall of Fame coach that was an athletics director and a dear friend of mine, and I learned so much that year just riding with him on that bus. And I was wearing him out with questions. So it was really fun for me. And then when the Oklahoma job came up, Coach Switzer had struggled. I think they were 6-5, and Donnie Duncan was his best friend, who was the AD or the head coach that I worked for at Iowa State. And he was best friends with Coach Switzer, so he just called and said, why don't you do this? And I said, I don't know, I just got here, I've been here a year, and I hate to walk out on people and all that. And then I thought, what a great challenge it was to go get them back on track and learn from Coach Switzer, one of the best ever. And Sparky was the offensive coordinator on our staff, and he took the job after I left. So the kids were taken care of, the staff was taken care of. So I really felt like it was the right thing to do, even though, like we said, I think Adam said, I moved maybe 4 years in a row or something. It was hard on my family and young ones, and I was doing what I thought I needed to do to get to be a better coach. So at this stage in my life, I'm in so much better shape. I'm not leaving, I'm not thinking about anything else. I'm here. So you don't have distractions. We even, Sally and I, at the end here, we were getting job offers all the time. And we actually said, we'll sit down and let's think of 3 places that we would consider going. And that's it. We're not gonna talk to anybody else, because there were NFL opportunities and college opportunities, and it was a real distraction. I mean, it's all the time. And we said, okay, we'll pick these 3 schools that we would consider going to, and Texas was one of those. And then when Texas called and the timing was right, and it worked out better there than here at that time, it was just the thing for us to do. And it sounds like coach speak, and it's really not, but after looking at different programs in our 5 years out, we wouldn't have coached anywhere but here. This is the only place, because she wanted to live here, and I love the place and so familiar with it. And not anybody else in the country can have 8 guys that played for them on their staff. That's so cool and so much fun for me. And I want us to get back to where we were when we left here. We can. And we've got everything headed in the right direction. We got to start winning on the road. And that's why this game, it's a hard game. It's a tough scheduled game. They're so excited. They said they've got Winnebago's pulling in today. So I'm sure they do. They're tailgating. But we need to win on the road. So like last week, we told the players, don't be up and down. Man, just get yourself where you're mentally strong and mentally tough. And when we heard the game might not be played, when we heard a bunch of them weren't coming, I said, forget all that. They're gonna come and they're gonna play as hard as they can play. So mentally prepare yourself for the standard of excellence and quit worrying about them. So we didn't win a game on the road last year. This is a perfect challenge for us, 2 weeks in a row. We gotta win on the road. It's harder to win on the road than it is at home. Everybody says, why can't you win on the road? Well, usually programs that are growing but not great yet can't win on the road. It's just tougher. Everything's tougher. You're staying in an uncomfortable new place. You're going into an environment where you've got very few fans and they got a bunch. There's always a rush to start the game for them. So officiating's harder. It's harder to run the ball. People just win more games at home than they do on the road. That's the way it is. But the great programs win at both places. And that's why this is like last week in a different way. This and Georgia State will be great challenges for us because it's something we haven't done well. We've played well, we've gotten close, but we haven't finished on the road.
Mack, what, just in terms of Drake, and in fact he's not a grizzled veteran yet, what do you think it's important for him to hear from you this week? What are you thinking about telling him or have talked to him about? Like, what do you want him hearing from you guys in terms of coaching you, just things like that?
Well, Drake and the entire team, Adam, is so inexperienced. So just be you. Let's quit worrying about all the hype and all of. We'll have that for Notre Dame too. I mean, it's just play. All you can do is be the best you can be. So if you play your best and they play better than we do, congratulate them and go the next week. I mean, that's what you do. But what you don't want to do is get distracted by all the stuff around it and then not play well. And you can't play the game on Tuesday. A lot of people get so excited about weeks when people are excited, because kids are more excited when there's more excitement from you all and the fans about the game. And because of that, they're more likely to have more energy on Tuesday, and you can't play the game Tuesday. So you got to be really, really careful that you build up like you do each week and play the game on Saturday, not Tuesday or Wednesday.
I know he's young, but do you sense in terms of his mental makeup that, you know, he's equipped to handle the highs and lows, the attention, that just everything you're going to go through to be a quarterback?
I do. Sam was this way every day. I mean, he never, as you all know, he never changed anything about his demeanor or his personality. And I didn't see anything different with Drake at any point. Saturday night, he came off and he might fist bump somebody, or he might say that was cool, but he expects it. And he was harder on himself after the game about the 3 passes he missed than all the ones he completed. So that's who he is. He's driven. So I think he'll be excited about going to Boone on Saturday, and I really don't think it'll affect him with his makeup.
All right, Coach. You guys
Got
good?
it? Anything else?
Thank you, Matt.